Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Megan Goulding. I'm the Director of External Relations at the USC Price Center for Social Innovation. And it is my privilege to be here today with Kimberly Rodriguez, my friend and colleague, who is the Data Programs Lead for the City of Los Angeles' Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. And we're really excited today to come talk to you about some of the work that's being done in LA. In particular, I'm going to talk about the newly launched Neighborhood Data for Social Change platform, which we debuted back in October of 2017, of course, with the leadership and collaboration of Socrata. So we're really excited to do that. And while economic opportunity is certainly one element of local neighborhood data efforts in LA, Kimberly and I are going to talk a little bit more broadly about some of the work that's being done to really empower neighborhoods at a local level through the data efforts that we're working on together. So what is Neighborhood Data for Social Change? We call it NDSC for short. And essentially, NDSC is a free, publicly accessible online resource for civic actors in LA County to learn more about their neighborhoods. Pretty simple. NDSC provides data at the neighborhood level, so down to the census tract, across 10 different policy areas, everything from employment and income, transportation, food access, real estate and housing, 10 different policy areas. And the overarching purpose of the platform, really our North Star, if you will, is to empower nonprofits, government agencies, advocacy groups, and your kind of average, everyday engaged resident with the information needed to advocate for change within their communities, to develop evidence-based policies and programs that advance positive change within their neighborhoods. This is a screenshot of the data mapping component of NDSC. So as you can see, I'm going to try to do the policy areas are here on the left. You can see there are 10 policy areas to choose from. Within those policy areas, users can drill down to specific indicators within those policy areas. So for example, demography, you can look at race and ethnicity, age, marital status, etc. The other kind of way to toggle back and forth between various information sets is through the actual geography selection. So right now we're looking at neighborhoods in LA County. Users can also look at the data through a county level. They can break it out by cities. They can break it out by neighborhoods as it is here. And you can break it out by specific census tracts as well. So this effort really started 5 years ago, and we feel like it's really important to note that NDSC is a community-driven effort designed by, and in many ways owned by the community. 5 years ago, Common Data LA, which is essentially a network of nonprofit, government, for-profit, advocacy groups, faith-based organizations, came together and talked about what a shared data resource would look like for LA County. Why is it needed? How would it work? What data would it hold? Who would house it, etc. And through this process that the Price Center was part of from the onset, we really arrived at these guiding principles of NDSC. And these are the principles that helped us launch this platform in October and that continue to shape the evolution of NDSC. The guiding principles are exploration, explanation, and narrative. Underlying all three of these guiding principles is a strong commitment to usability. We feel it is critical that NDSC provides a tool for every Angelino, whether you are a very sophisticated, experienced data user or someone who isn't as used to working with data, doesn't have as strong of a grasp on how to access it, etc. Every person should be able to get the information they need from NDSC. And in many ways, that is the main principle that we work toward. So the neighborhood and city mapping tool is one component of NDSC. This is, in many ways, the entry point and kind of the core function for how people might access and get into looking at specific data within a specific geography. So, for example, this map, I believe it is broken out at the neighborhood level, and you can see that someone is looking for demographic information, right? They wanted to understand the total population within neighborhoods of LA County. So this is how you access data across those 10 policy areas. This is how you access data, within the policy areas on the different indicators that you're looking for. We use the LA Times neighborhood boundaries as a way of defining what essentially composes a neighborhood in LA County. So that is 272 neighborhoods that were essentially preset for us, right? And so it made it very easy. But we realized that not everyone defines their neighborhood in the same way, right? So I might say my neighborhood is, from these blocks to these blocks, and someone else might have a different idea. So it was very important from the onset, and Socrata worked really hard to do this for us, to create your own neighborhood. That's a function that we had specifically in mind and built for this. So it allows the user to select multiple census tracts, so 2, 3, 4, 5 census tracts within a certain area, and the platform then aggregates that data to give you a snapshot of what your quote-unquote neighborhood looks like. The other cool thing that we were really committed to is allowing people to save their neighborhoods. So if they log on, create a profile, they can save their custom-built neighborhood so that as you come back to the platform week after week, you can return to that same neighborhood and be able to pull up new data each time. We also wanted to be able to give people a better understanding of what the data is that they are looking at and why it's important. So we have a section here on, it's essentially the metadata, or in some ways our data library. And so within each of the 10 policy areas, demography is what we're looking at here, each of the 10 areas has a page just like this that talks about why it's important, essentially what we're looking at within the policy area, what indicators are included, and why it's important to know about these things. Then people can drill down and learn about the specific data sets within that policy area, right? So you can jump into age distribution, households, understand what data sources we used, what years we used, so that everything is transparent and people really gain an understanding of what the data is that they're looking at and how it applies and relates to their work. The last component that we built out for NDSC is data stories. And this, again, was a very specific function that we had in mind early on. We didn't want to build a platform that just sort of produced numbers and trends and charts and didn't really tell stories, right? Storytelling was a critical component from the onset of NDSC. We work with community partners, many of whom are on our steering committee, which is essentially our advisory board for NDSC, to tell the stories that they see facing their communities. So we use NDSC data to identify trends, opportunities, challenges in communities, and then we work with our community partners to develop narrative around that. So the data is the foundation and the underlying story, if you will, but then we use narrative, we use photos, charts, interactive visualizations to add a little bit more of a human perspective to that data. So we produce them every 2 weeks in partnership with our formal media partner, which is KCET Link. They're published on KCET's website under their City Rising initiative. They're published on our website. We share them on social media. And since we've launched, we've produced 9, soon to be 10, stories, and they're really a signature component of this platform. So as you can tell, we had a very specific idea in mind for this platform. We had a strong vision of what we wanted it to look like and the components that we wanted to see included. And Socrata really helped us get there. It did require quite a bit of customization. The mapping component in particular, we asked for it to be aggregated data rather than point data, for example. The perspectives really allowed us to build out this site as we wanted it to be. So we used perspectives for just about every page of the platform with the exception of the map itself. And then we added some customization to the perspectives pages just to get a little bit closer to what we wanted specifically for it to look like. So for example, we used Tableau for our visualizations. We added Google Forms for people to give feedback directly on the site. And then we just play around with different ways of arranging the information. So it's constantly evolving. All of our stories look different. All of our pages certainly have a similar look, but we're always looking for ways to kind of improve the flow and function, again, getting to that usability for everyone. So with that, I'd like to welcome Kimberly up, and we'll take questions together afterwards. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is, once again, thank you, Megan. It's Kimberly Rodriguez, and I'm the Data Programs Lead for the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. I'm very happy to be here today to share about the very, I would say, brainchild that came out after a great need, being part of the Neighborhood Council, or being an Angelina, and figuring out just what makes up LA and how can we better serve those residents that are part of that. So just to paint the picture of LA, LA is the second largest city in the nation, and it's about 500 square miles and over a population of 4 million people. It's extremely diverse. It's home to about people from different parts of the country, parts of the nation, which over 140, and who speak over 200 languages. And we have a mayor, we have a council, and we have 97 neighborhood councils. I am a homegrown Angelina, and I love my city very much, and I have seen the transitions of this great city. I'm very proud that this program serves the very residents that are underrepresented and have very minimal resources, and giving them information and knowledge allows them to better understand the makeup of the neighborhood, and as a result, create what I call a problem to project approach. Here we go, let's try this. So the project itself is, we want to serve accountability and efficiency within the neighborhood council system. So there's 97 neighborhood councils. Each of them have an allocation of $42,000 every budget cycle. So this is money and funds that has come from the general fund from the city, and they decide how specifically to spend this money on small projects, whether it be schools, whether it be an art project, mural, you name it. This money is allocated to them, and as a board, or people that are elected into the 97 neighborhood councils, they have to come up with a process to figure out how to best distribute this fund. So we want to make sure it's accountability and efficiency, regional collaboration. We want all 97 neighborhood councils, while they're diverse and unique and have very specific issues to their very neighborhoods, can very much collaborate and understand each other and share resources and best practices. Finally, we want to build transparency. We want to make sure that they know that local government is there for them. And sometimes, given our current political climate, people might not think that the government is there to support them or help them or ultimately look out for them. So we want to let them know that yes, we're here, and we want to provide you with one of our most valuable assets, which is public information. So this is the program that I lead. It's called the data program, Open Data Literacy Program. Megan and I work together to serve the residents. They're all diverse groups of folks. Mainly is part of the 97 neighborhood councils. They come from different backgrounds and economic, social status. And our goal is to make sure that from someone that doesn't know how to turn on a computer to someone that's uber literate and wants to move on and make a lot of these tools, put them on a web page. We take everybody by the hand, and what's really special about our project is that we meet neighbors, residents where they're at. We don't ask them to come to City Hall. We identify community partners such as USC and other great partners, Community Coalition, the Boys and Girls Club. Our next one is going to be at the Youth Center in Boyle Heights. So community-based organizations that already have a great stand or presence in the community, and we partner up with them, and we work to identify members who want to be part of our data tribe, right? And we share the great tools that the city through Socrata, we have an open data portal where all departments share their information, and we dissect that data, filter it, and help people identify how best to find meaning and value out of the data and how best to move forward with it to create meaningful projects in their neighborhoods. One of the this one was held in South Los Angeles, and again, all ages and diverse communities. And one of the issues that came up in one of them was that with the money that they had funded, they bought trash cans, but they didn't know where to place these trash cans. So Margarita, who is the president of the MacArthur Park Neighborhood Council, asked me, I have this money, I have these trash cans, but I have a feeling of where to put them. Then we introduced the Clean Stats Index, where we have as a city identify with the Department of Sanitation what are the really dirty streets to the not so dirty streets, but then you have your clean streets. We have identified them through color, so we have them as green, yellow, and red. So then I let her know, this is what we have as a department or the city identify as our main targets. So now you can place your trash cans in the red zones or in the yellow zones, not just go by gut, but also by what we have registered within our city department. Another great example, homelessness is an issue that I'm sure hits a lot of metropolitan cities, and LA is not alone. So we have a lot of homeless encampments, and a lot of neighborhood councils want to serve this community, so we have committees. So we want to identify where the homeless encampments are, so we make sure we let them know based on the information that we extract from 311. We also overlap that with their neighborhood council boundaries, and now they know how to best deploy the resources and needs to serve folks that are currently experiencing homelessness. Further, we have an election coming up, and within our neighborhood council system, it's not so representative of the neighborhoods that they serve. So we have mainly majority homeowners, when majority of the folks in the neighborhood tend to be renters. We mostly have men in office or in the board's leadership, when there's a lot of women that also take on these leadership roles, but not might be at the forefront. And we have not a lot of young people in the process. So we want to make sure that through Data Lens, we have identified, imported all this data, we have shared it within our workshops, and made it very clear that we want more women to run, we want more young people to run, and we want more people of color to also represent the very neighborhoods that they make up. So not only are we sharing the data, but we're empowering folks to take action. So I let the residents that come to the workshop that data is only the root of the solution, but not the entire solution. So how do we, again, go from identifying the gaps to thinking critically and creatively about how we find solutions to serve the very neighborhoods that they live in and that probably know best than we as a government, because we don't walk the streets every day. So this is the Data Lens. We show them where each neighborhood council meets, and we show them the demographic data by age, by gender, by race, and we ask them to please think about running for office, not just participating in our training. Finally, some challenges that we have come and successes. We have a more engaged population. They're empowered to make a difference. There was an occasion where I was part of the South LA training, and a person was like, wait, that's not right. That street is not clean. And why is it marked green? And I was like, that's a great point. I don't know that. I don't know your street. Let's figure out how we can follow up with that. And then somebody else said, well, we're going to start a committee to make sure that the streets in our neighborhoods are clean. And now people are just not going by what they feel, what they know, but what's collectively being shared. And in this case, empowering them to take action and to take ownership and agency of their very own neighborhoods. Then we build trust. Again, we're not alone. You're not alone in the process as a resident. Here as government, we're here to start a conversation. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about us collectively working together. They rally support. There's more people willing to ask us for help. We're not the enemy. We're here to, again, share information. Some barriers that we have faced is language barriers. Not everybody speaks English. We have over 200 languages spoken, and LAUSD alone is our school system, but the largest in the nation. We have 92 languages spoken. So currently our workshops or trainings are held in Spanish too. We have a large community of Korean Americans, so we're trying to bring that information to them as well. And digital divide, not everybody has a computer or knows how to work a computer, so we're working really closely with our community partners to identify from the charter school next door to my ITA department who can bring those computers along so we can serve the neighbors where they're at. And then finally, we want to create a space where folks feel comfortable, and we work with community members to do that. final steps that we want to do is expand our reach. We so far have held 4 neighborhood trainings or open data neighborhood trainings, and we are hosting our 5th one in Boyle Heights, and most of them had exceeded 60 RSVPs, and that's because we have capped them there. If we keep going, folks tend to want to continue coming, and then we want to obtain funding because we don't have our own computers. So we're trying to get our own Chromebooks and not necessarily always go for the most convenient community department or center just because they have computers. Most of them tend to be very old computers, and libraries also don't have a lot of computers. So we're trying to get that technology for ourselves, collect stories along with USC to make sure, start documenting and identifying how much of an impact this hyper-local grassroots effort is impacting positively our neighborhoods. And we want to continue developing curriculum. So not only are you here for the 2.5-hour training that we host, but beyond that training, how can you become more literate, and how do you then make your own trainings and then start teaching your own community members to become empowered through data? Thank you.
I think we have about 5 or 6 minutes for questions. Yes?
Is all of your data census data, or is all of your data census data, or are you also incorporating other data that the city or county collects?
All of it is secondary data. Most of it is census. We do have a few additional data sets, for example, California Department of Education, for example. So there may be a handful of non-census, but the majority is.
Hi, I'm from the city of Seattle, and I just loved the whole neighborhood presentation, and both. That was amazing. And my question is, 97 neighborhood groups is a lot. What are some specific tactics you use to engage maybe some of the neighborhood councils that aren't, as engaged or aren't as active, especially with the, digital divide concerns?
Great question. I make them feel jealous. I do. I hype up the program. I take a lot of pictures. People just might not read an entire newsletter, but if a great picture is there, they want to be part of it. So it's this whole idea of FOMO, you're feeling left out. So I let them know, you want to be part of this. Look how great this person was having such a great time. And then those stories, right? We go back to having folks share their stories and the impact at the hyper-local level of this mega platform that we have. How is it impacting your everyday life? From a trash can to supporting a homeless person in the street to making sure you're interacting with your active businesses. It all comes together, and we all can have that real connection with folks. So yeah, make them jealous.
Thank you for your presentation. You gave the example of the clean street, which the citizen perceived as not clean, and this lack of understanding. I'm wondering if you capture that feedback as data, like organizations like Streetwise do, to really understand how services impact individuals and neighborhoods.
So how do I capture, I just want to make sure that...
The feedback. So I'm thinking of the Streetwise example where the federal government has an algorithm or a standard and will rate some neighborhoods as friendly to fresh food. And then when you have community feedback say, oh, that bread is crushed, or I would never eat that there, that's a convenience store. And so figuring out the ground level understanding of it.
Okay, so the Department of, I think I understand your question. So the Department of Sanitation has a group of folks that go out there and collect the data on behalf of the city, and as far as residents giving us their input, we have an application called 311, and each resident has the capability of taking a picture, documenting that particular ticket or issue, and then we take that data in, and then we deploy folks to that specific region to make sure it's taken care of, and continue the process or the intake. And then we have also leadership, the council members. It's kind of bad to know that your neighborhood is not well taken care of, or the department is not assisting that particular neighborhood. So there's a lot of pressures from from communities and media to show that you are being, a leader in your community and using what you have to make sure that residents are getting their streets clean. Does that help? Yeah. Okay. We can connect after.
Hi, Jill Goodman, the City of Austin. Thanks for coming out. I was in LA a couple weeks ago, and y'all were a great host city as well. So I've got two questions. One is I was looking at some of the filters on the map, which are really excellent. Curious about the process and how you guys figured out what goes on there. Everything from what are the options for demographics to, you know, should we put, you know, social connectedness on there? Like, what was the process to figure out what goes on the map? Second question, how is the local government working with y'all, or what are you seeing from their side in terms of this resource? What's coming out of it, or what do you hope to see?
Thanks for the question. In terms of what went on the map and the different policy areas, the way to view the data, what type of data we included, all of that was guided by our steering committee. So the Common Data LA initiative that I spoke of maybe midway through the presentation, in some ways that evolved into our NDSC steering committee. Many of the folks that were very involved in that initial effort joined the Price Center's NDSC steering committee once we started really building and launching this platform. And all of those decisions of the policy areas, what type of data to include, how we want to view it, all of that was a discussion that was had among those steering committee members. We were very intentional about not wanting to kind of include all data for LA that you could possibly want. We wanted a very curated, very kind of tight set of indicators. And so the steering committee members were instrumental in making those decisions with us. In terms of the relationship with the city and county, I would say that we've gotten a lot of great feedback, and I think people are really supportive of this new resource. The data landscape in LA is really rich and wonderful right now. There's a lot of people doing really cool work regionally, locally, which is kind of our focus area. You know, even statewide, citywide, et cetera. So we see it as this big kind of wonderful pool that we're all in. And, you know, Kimberly and I work together every single month. We do community trainings together. So we're always looking for ways to collaborate and partner with people at the city, at the county, at different research centers, at USC, outside of USC. So the more partnerships and collaborations for us, the better. I think that's it, but I'm at Demo Alley this afternoon, and I know Kimberly's around, so we're happy to talk more later. Thank you so much.